Hi, my name is Brian Simons. I own Sensational Events, and the Lodge in Skaneateles has contracted our company to provide all the sound, lighting, and some other services for all of the weddings. So if you're watching this, you're either a member of a band or a manager of a band, and if you've been hired to perform at the Lodge, we're going to be there to provide sound support, all of the lighting support, and some other assistance as well. We've had multiple bands come through the Lodge. It works out great. Everybody, I know they love it because we've had bands ask to hire us to work at other venues after they've been to the Lodge, but there's always the initial skepticism. There's always the initial, what? There's a sound engineer provided. We're not comfortable with that. I don't think I've had a band yet that's not where it started. And I hate that, so I'm hoping that with this video, we just kind of show you exactly what is going to be provided and how things work so that you know what to expect when you show up, you know what to bring or not to bring. And so to start at the top, what we need from you is we're going to need a stage plot. We don't necessarily need an input list if I have a stage plot, but I do like it when we get both. What's great to get before the wedding is if you have a set list. And the reason I like to ask for that is we can play pre-recorded music, so you don't have to worry about that. We can play it both on the fly. For example, if you have songs that they want to use that are pre-recorded for special dances or grand intros, you don't have to deal with that. Like, you can do your introductions and I can have your cues and I'll keep the music going exactly the way you want. But we can also auto-play music for cocktail hour if you're not performing, or dinner if you're all taking a break. And so if we have your list, we can make sure that we don't play any songs during your downtime that you're going to come back and play. So anyway, the system at the Lodge is super sophisticated. I think that's one of the reasons, among a few others, that the Lodge wants us there, is that when they used to have bands, they weren't able to fully take advantage of everything that's there. We have zoned speakers throughout the facility. We have speakers out front. We have deck speakers. If you guys are playing, a small ensemble for cocktail hour, you can play right at the band location and we can have that music go to anywhere that we want, or the main PA or all of it. So same thing with the lighting. We have unbelievable lighting there, all mounted in the beams above, so you don't have to have any lighting taking up space on the floor, no tree lights. When you get there, we're going to have everything already set up. We will always, like sometimes we do it the day before, so we're always ready for you when you walk in. So if you come over here, I set up sort of a mock area. Now here's the thing with the Lodge, is they have a very shallow staging area. So I mapped this out exactly the size that you have. Right, so the curtains behind me are the back wall. I put these trusses here where they have beams. And so it's fairly wide, but it only comes out, the dance floor is only 9 feet from the wall. We always put the front of house PA speakers on the dance floor, so you kind of get an extra 2 feet. But in any case, if you need monitors, like if you want floor wedges, you just tell us. We have the floor wedges. We use all QSC K12s and K8s, well, 0.2s, which you can see here. The front of house speakers that are here at my warehouse are not what's at the Lodge. There's actually a bigger speaker system there. Wireless microphones, everything is ready. So if you have a keyboard player, like back here, I set up my mock keyboard player in the back. I've got a DI, everything is hooked in. That brings up another point. We use digital stage boxes. So I have inputs behind one of the front of house speakers on the left. That's also where we usually put our mic receiver rack. But then I'll put a stage box right by the drums so that all the drum mics are plugged right in, right next to the drum, and there's no cables running all over. And all the way around, we have a stage box in the back and a stage box on the right. So we've got places for everybody to hook in right near them. If you've got keys, we'll have stereo DI boxes set up for your keys to plug into, or multiple keys. Tracks, anything that you need, like, it will be here and it will be ready and it will be neat and organized and tidy, and we do a really good job of just trying to keep the space open. If you have horns players, which we usually do, and really quick, as far as microphones go, I'm a Sennheiser dealer, so it's almost all Sennheiser microphones, and I think you'll love them. But for our vocal mics, it's all EWDX microphones. I have different heads for them, which usually bands don't really have a strong preference. I have a strong preference based on where your drummer sits. We will not use the condenser mics if the drums are right behind the singers. But we will if you put the drummer off to the side, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But if you have horns, we use the Neumann MCM 114s. These are unbelievable mics. We have clips for all of them. And actually, if you were to be a band that maybe had a violin or a cello or an upright bass, these mics are great because they come with a variety of mounting clips. So we can mount them on different things. But most of the time, it's trumpet, trombone, saxophone. Before I talk about the drums, something that we just added, so even if you've been to the lodge previously, we were working on trying to make these little personal monitor systems, because one of the things that I don't love is I like to mix from the front of house position and be adjusting in real time, being able to, hey, there's a sax solo, let me bring up that sax like immediately. So I don't like being stuck to the side or off where you can't really hear, but that makes it harder to mix the monitors. So Behringer then, over this past year, came out with these new P24 mixers. And so I bought a hub, and we have 8 of these little mini mixers. And they can go on the mic stands like we have here right now, but they can also be set on a guitar amp. And even if you don't feel like you need to have one right nearby, I'm still going to use them. I'll just put them to the side and put your name on it. And if you want to go between a song and change a monitor, you can. But the reason that I love these things, and I know that every band that uses them is going to love them, is they got rid of all the menus and all the crap, which is the reason we didn't like the old personal monitors, is you had to really know what you were doing. These ones, they just have faders. And they're all stereo faders, but we just take all the vocal mics and put them in mono. But the way that we deal with larger bands is we make sure the vocals are all on here, lead guitar, keys, bass, but then I set up a mix bus for drums and a mix bus for horns. So if you're using a floor wedge, you're probably not going to want any drums ever, but if you're using in-ear monitors, you probably do want to add some drums. So I have a separate drum bus and a separate horns bus, and those are different than the drum bus and the horn bus that I use for the front, because usually if you want to hear some drums, you want it to be mostly kick, snare, and maybe some hi-hat. Probably don't want any overheads. You may or may not want some toms, but so we can adjust that for you, and then this single fader is just going to bring up all the drums. These monitor mixers, a single cord brings them back to the hub, and then they can plug directly into a monitor. So if you look here where we have this QSE K8, I'm just coming out with a balanced output into the monitor. That's how that works. I didn't even know about these until some of the bands at the lodge showed up, but these little inexpensive 2.4 gigahertz in-ear monitors, they actually work great. So I bought one. I might buy a few more in case anybody, wants to use one. But these things are great because they're battery powered on both ends and they're tiny. And so if you want to use these, or if you have people in the band that have them, we provide this little tiny cable that lets them just hang right down there. And so talk about, not having to worry about wireless issues with these, because that's probably the biggest downside to these little cheaper units. They actually I think they sound great. Downsides are they're mono and they don't have great range, but when your transmitter and receiver are 3 feet apart, you're not going to have any issues. The only thing that we don't provide as of the recording of this video is we don't do, like a rack of in-ear monitors. And the reason why is we still have most bands where there's like a few people that use in-ears, and a lot of times they bring their own. Like I said, that's how I discovered these little devices. But a lot of them still use the floor wedges. I would love it if everybody got right rid of floor wedges, and if we start to see where all the bands or most of the bands are really going all in-ears, we'll probably add a rack with like 8 in-ears that's there for you. But as of right now, if you bring your own, in addition to the outputs on these, all of these have an output off to the side that's your exact mix just going out of XLRs. So we can put your in-ear transmitter over on the side where there's power and connect it straight in. So, so that's how it works with these monitors. Now, this is the next big thing. You don't have to do this. And we've had a couple bands that have, we've had a couple bands that said it just doesn't work for us, but this is just a recommendation on how to maximize the space at the lodge. So, Logan, if you step off, and I'm going to put some pictures up too, but right now I kind of made my fake stair railing. So if you look right here, from the front of house speaker all the way to the other side, this is actually what's lined up with the dance floor. Then there's a staircase, and nobody comes down this side, they don't need to. So when the lodge said, how can we have bands not take up too much space? Because they've had bands that have used a third of the dance floor, and they don't like that. That's probably another reason why they want us involved, is we try to make it so people can squeeze a lot without being uncomfortable, but without taking up a huge portion of the dance floor. The best way to do it is if you don't mind putting your drummer to the side. And so if you're willing to do this, it has so many advantages. So number one, we bring these risers, like we have the staging, and they're super, like they all get clamped together. They're solid as a rock. We even have this oversized drum rug. We bring that too. But if the drummer sets up here, yes, they're to the side of the stairs and their visibility of the dance floor is not great, but they're elevated and they have a great view of the rest of the band, so it's pretty easy to, to communicate. But because the drum kit takes up so much space where it traditionally is in the middle, it makes it hard to not push things out, or you basically have it so tight that the drums or the mic stands for the drums are right behind the lead singers. So if you put it over there, you save a ton of space. So if you're to look at this setup right now, it is super comfortable for, I've got it, so we've got and again, this is just a fake band, but so I've got my lead guitar right here, and I don't have backline gear, so this is our mock guitar amp. We have E906 microphones for all guitar amps. I've got a bunch of them. Then, lead Vox here, lead Vox. Here I've got where you could put some horns. I put a mic stand in case one of them sings. If they didn't, then no mic stand, and we just have them with their wireless MCM 114s. Back here, bass player, is bass amp. Don't need a bass amp, but my experience is bass player is going to have a bass amp. So here's just an example. These, you could put these little mixers on your amps. You can put them to the side. They don't have to be on the mic stands. I think they're great on the mic stands, but if you put an iPad or something there and you don't want it, we'll put it somewhere else. But so in any case, a lot of room right here. This is not the way it is if you have a drum kit in the middle. The drum kit takes up half of this space. But here's what I discovered is that when you put the drums over there, you get another really big advantage, and that's that the drums are a lot further away from your vocal mics, so the vocal mics aren't picking up a lot of drums. And not only are they a lot further away, but they're off axis, so you get a lot better sound, and the staircase is like concrete, so that even becomes like a drum shield. So it struck me after an event how much better I thought it sounded with the band that I want to say, there was two bands, but with the bands that put the drummer to the side, it worked great. Again, we've had bands where the drummer is kind of like the lead person in the band, and he really felt he needed to be in the center. And yeah, we make that work, and we'll always make it work. But I like to point this out as a really good solution. If you're willing to do it, let us know, and we'll have it set up that way. Alternatively, we've had a band, and I'll also throw a picture that shows the stage. We had a band where they put their three-piece horn section on the stage. So we had a trumpet, saxophone, and trombone. And when we did that, we even put a step so that the stage connected to the stairs, and the sax player was a lot of fun, and he would go up on the middle of the landing and do sax solos, and we'd hit him with a spotlight and shoot off cold sparks and do all, it was amazing. So that worked really well too, but as you can tell, I'm a big fan. You just don't get the same space savings. You get a little, but you certainly don't get the improved sound that you get from moving the drums a little bit further away from everybody's microphones. But again, like I said, we do sound for a lot of traveling acts that come in, and you've probably never heard of us, and that's because we don't generally work directly with bands. We work for Syracuse University, for some other colleges, for some other corporate entities, and so we're usually working with bands that get flown in or drive in, and then we provide all of what their rider asks for, and we get backline gear from BAM. We don't have any backline gear. We just, everything you see here, I mean, we have more of this stuff, but we don't have any instruments, guitar amps, bass amps. I don't carry that kind of stuff. But, so yeah, this is what you'll have waiting for you when you get there. So you don't, we like you to get there early for sound check. The last thing I'll say is sometimes bands will get there early if there's a ceremony and do a sound check before the ceremony. I love that. I think that's the way to go. But I understand too that if you have, 9, 10 people in a band, they don't necessarily want to chew up their entire Saturday to get there that early. So we have had times where we'll play cocktail hour music through the system by the bar and on the deck and everywhere else, and the band is setting up, just getting plugged in and doing a line check, and then hopefully, do a short set at the end of cocktail hour so that we can kind of get things balanced and sounding really good. The last thing, I know that, but this is the really important thing. We have something set up so slick at the lodge. So there's a case in the back that will actually be in a closet and you won't even see it. And that's where the brains of this whole operation are. It's where there's a digital rack mixer, Wave sound grid server, all that stuff. And then we have a cart, I guess you'd call it. And this is something that I put together specifically to solve these issues, which is, like I said earlier, I really like to mix out where I can hear it, but you can't be set up there all night because you're in the way for dinner or grand intros or whatnot. So anyway, this cart is my control station for everything, and I've got physical faders, I've got touchscreen monitors, I can control the lights, I can send singers to different vocal buses. I have buses for different sounds like 60s Motown type of effects, harmonies for backup singers. All of this is completely untethered. No sound comes to this. This thing isn't actually in the chain. It's just a really glorified remote control system, and it's even got a big battery UPS that mounts in it, and it'll run for about 10 hours. So what I do is I keep it out of the way when we need to, but then when you go on to do the dance sets, for the main portion of the evening after dinner, I just squeak it right out and set up where I want, because at that point nobody cares. And so everything is controlled from here, and there's no big mixers taking up any of your space. That's all hidden all the way in the back and out of sight. So this kind of is what facilitates the way we do things at the lodge. Yeah, and so I'm very accessible. We don't do a lot just at the lodge, and they don't do a ton of bands there, maybe a half dozen a year. And I enjoy doing it, and as a company, we enjoy doing it. And so if you're one of the bands, some of them don't really want to interact with us a lot, and I have others that have all sorts of great ideas and really want to go over it. I'm very accessible and will always have the time. But again, right from the top, the most important starting point is input list, stage plot, and if you have specific requests or if there's something specific that you want to bring and alter out, we're there for you. And I'm confident that, hopefully this at least makes you feel comfortable and not worried about what you're walking into. But I'm confident that after the fact, you're gonna, wish that you could play at the lodge every weekend, because first of all, you don't got to carry all this crap in and take it out at the end of the night. But it really is well organized, sounds amazing, and yeah, and I think we're easy to work with. So look forward to seeing you there, and yeah, thanks for watching.